Good evening, folks. Looking to resume the regular meeting of council Monday, December 15th. My apologies up front. We have a few members at the council table here who are suffering from that horrible cold. So if they just get up and disappear for a glass of water or whatever, that's just to be expected. So with that, we shall move on. Looking for, there is one section that needs to be changed in here. Item number 3, pay it forward presentation. That flu has taken out our contenders for this evening, so there will not be a presentation. We'll hold that off and perhaps do it in January when everybody's feeling a little better. So having struck that from the agenda, can I have approval of the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Public participation. Folks, this is your chance. You can address us at the podium. The light's on, so I believe everything is ready to go. Your name and address, please, for the benefit of the recording secretary. If you don't want to give it publicly because we are on a webcast, provide that to Miss Marcy at the end of the table.
Evening, Mayor, Councils. I'm Bruce Tate, Ocean Grove 108 3234 Polegate Lane. Sorry.
It is on. It's just a matter of
Excuse
direction.
me, Madam Mayor. I'm going to have to excuse myself for a conflict of interest.
Okay.
I've put a couple of words here together on Ocean Grove and how I'm approaching it, so I'd like to read that to you. The Ocean Grove development, located off Lagoon Road, bordered to the south by Esquimalt Lagoon, is proceeding through its various proposal stage. The vision of this tract of inhabited land includes features as condominiums, single-family homes, townhouses, roads, retail units, all the while retaining a unique feature, the riparian zone. Loosely defined, riparian zone represents the interface between land and a stream or river. Among existing owners in Ocean Grove, there's concern about the intentions of the city with respect to the proposed new roads, their infrastructures, and responsibility for the riparian zone. We understand that staff has proposed the following recommendations: that all new roads within Ocean Grove, be through roads or cul-de-sacs, will be the sole responsibility of the strata owners, as opposed to sharing a responsibility among Colwood taxpayers. The maintenance of all infrastructure laid beneath these roads to be the responsibility of the strata owners within Ocean Grove. It will not be shared by Colwood taxpayers. And third, that the riparian zone be maintained by strata owners of Ocean Grove and not by all Colwood taxpayers. With respects to points 1 and 2, our concern lies with the fact that the maintenance and repair of all new roads and infrastructures will become the sole responsibility of homeowners within Ocean Grove. We appreciate that it is standard practice that maintenance and repair costs relating to cul-de-sacs are typically borne by strata or bare land strata. However, why would the responsibility of the roads transiting our development be ours to bear alone and not the responsibility of Colwood taxpayers, considering that these are infrastructures built that can be utilized by everyone? If Council follows staff's recommendations, we, the owners of the properties in Ocean Grove, will find ourselves twice burdened. We will be expected to maintain Ocean Grove roads, infrastructures, and at the same time to contribute our property dollars towards the maintenance and most other roads within the city. This seems unfair. Consideration should be given to executing the City of Colwood's recent approval of an economic development strategy. Downloading costs onto a few taxpayers may make it difficult for new developers of the Ocean Grove lands to sell their properties due to unfair taxation. This begs the question, how is it that Ocean Grove is handled differently from any other community development within Colwood? Will homeowners in the new Royal Bay development be expected to cover the maintenance and repairs of roads, and infrastructures within their new community? If not, why not? Why would the property tax dollars of Ocean Grove owners go towards the upkeep of Royal Bay's new roads, but the verse wouldn't hold true when it comes to Ocean Grove? If I may cite an example where a balanced division of responsibility lies, we have only to look at the sewage treatment plant proposal for the region. Associated costs would be borne by every homeowner, regardless of whether their property is on sewer or not. The treatment plant is an infrastructure build, one that benefits everyone in their communities. The previous council decided from legal advice that all costs should be borne by all taxpayers, not by just a few. With respect to point number 3, the riparian area that is to be constructed as part of the Ocean Grove development. This will be a community amenity that will be utilized by many people, both Colwood residents and those living beyond. Drawings of the enhanced development show a pathway constructed from the corner of Lagoon and Heather Bell Roads outside the Ocean Grove boundaries that will make its way down the slope into Ocean Grove to the proposed riparian zone. From there, the path continues through the orchard and onto already existing Goldfinch Road. At this point, the path will have exited Ocean Grove boundaries. This will not be an entity whose usage will be confined solely to our development, but a natural habitat open and available to all who choose to walk its path. As this public area will be open to everyone, the cost to maintain the riparian habitat should never be the responsibility of Ocean Grove homeowners. It'll be a community amenity, and therefore costs should be shared among all. I have a property in Shutters in Victoria. It's 3.5 acres on the Inner Harbor, and it has waterways in it. It has islands, it has ponds and pools, and this is all borne by the people there, and rightfully it should, because it is a locked-in, gated community. We have security on the doors and fobbed entrance. Therefore, at that point, you can see that happening. But here, I sort of look at it as, Ocean Grove is really public, and I think we all should be sharing in that cost base. So, thank you.
You stole my thunder, but I'm going to go anyways. Sherry Lukens, 401-3223 Selleck Way. The concerns raised by the previous speaker are something that this council nor the previous council may have been aware of, as those items are entailed typically in the development agreement or development permit of the original developer. I can't imagine that the city wants to impede development by overburdening a specific group of people moving into a new neighborhood being constructed within Colwood with infrastructure costs, which in most other instances within the community are shared amongst all taxpayers. The previous council approved the expenditure of $100,000 to have an economic development strategy done that this council will hopefully embrace and execute on. Burdening new development with downloading costs such as road maintenance and infrastructure to them will then be passed on to potential buyers. People will look twice before purchasing due to the high costs and risks associated with purchasing in such a community and neighborhood. This begs the question, how will the downloading of costs benefit Colwood if the risks are too high for potential buyers? Could it put the development in jeopardy for completion? Another hole in Colwood? If the proposed costs are going to be downloaded onto all newly developed neighborhoods, i.e. Ocean Grove, will the same thing happen in Royal Bay? How is the city of Colwood going to restructure taxes for these new neighborhoods? Why should I have to pay for the maintenance and repairs of roads and riparian areas within the neighborhood that I live in, plus pay for all other roads and community amenities within Colwood when no other taxpayer is contributing to the same investment in the roads that I drive on to get to my house? The costs that staff are suggesting homeowners pay, those being for road repair and maintenance within Ocean Grove for a road that will transverse the development, meaning it will connect up to an already existing road, does not make this road exclusive in nature to the development itself. This is not a gated community. We all pay taxes on the majority of all roads within Colwood, whether we use them or not. Why are the residents of Ocean Grove being asked to pay for the same service within their neighborhood exclusively, plus the rest of Colwood? Infrastructure is one of the basic needs within a community. I pay almost $3,700 in taxes each year to the city of Colwood. For what? I pay for my own water, I pay for sewer, I don't get garbage pickup, and now you're asking for me to exclusively fund the roads within my community that is going to be developed. What do I pay taxes for? And where are my tax dollars being spent? I also raised the riparian area that will be constructed within Ocean Grove. This, too, is a community amenity. The city has requested that a pathway be constructed from the top of Heatherville that will go down through the Ocean Grove community and connect to existing roads and pathways. This is shown on the drawing contained within the report before you this evening. Once again, why are residents of Ocean Grove being asked to fund a community amenity that is accessible to everyone? I ask that you, members of council, consider amendments to the proposed recommendations when you put forward your motion this evening. Please treat taxpayers within your community fairly. Thank you. And I will provide a copy. I do have not one question, but I'm going to pose it as a question. And in reading the report, I understand there's been some renegotiation with respect to allocation of what amenities Colwood will get versus what the developer is going to pay for because of the ask to be upgrading Seafield Road at this time. My question is, with the allocations, and I didn't see it in the report that have been done, I was disappointed to see that the power lines are not going to be put underground due to costs and, again, balancing the equality of the costs between developer and what the city gets. With respect to the development at the corner of Heatherbell and Seafield, which was the cottages, that is not going ahead at this time, the question is would they be expected to cost share the upgrades to Seafield when that development gets underway? And if so, has that been taken into consideration as far as the costs of potentially getting those lines put into underground the first time around? We're redoing the road on Seafield. It would be great if we built this, community that we're building there to the best standards that we can. So, it would be great to be able to get those power lines underground. So I just don't know if the cost sharing thing has been considered as far as, Seafield or Seacliff being compensated for some of the monies once that development gets going via cost sharing. Thank you.
Gail Johnston, 245 Shipsview Place. Thank you, Sherry. Your comments were great. And I have to agree with the Ocean Grove people. I don't think they should be totally burdened with the cost of the riparian upkeep or the roads. I think it should be for all the taxpayers. Anyway, my comments are under new business and have to do with Ocean Grove as well. Welcome back to work. 4 of you have sat on this council before, and 2 of you are newcomers. I would like you to know that I think the last council was one of the strongest and best councils I have seen since moving to Colwood, so you have large boots to fill over the next 4 years. I am also one of the minority who actually came out and voted for you, so you will hear me come out and speak to issues involving Colwood from time to time. I attended the Planning and Land Use meeting October 21st regarding Ocean Grove and have a comment to make on the process. The 100 or so residents who arrived to voice their concerns were made to wait almost an hour before Ocean Grove came up on the agenda. This huge project should have been the only issue for this meeting, which went into overtime until 11 p.m. The fact that so many people were willing to stay for 4 hours should indicate the willingness of this neighborhood to engage with the city and the developer in this process. As a resident of this area, I want to stress upon this council and planning department that the community has legitimate concerns over traffic, parking, access, and egress in this area. Heather Bell is nothing more than a steep laneway for the 80 dwellings which have been there since the 1970s. We don't even have a yellow line down the road. The Royal Roads fence, ditch, and large trees are a fixed boundary on one side of Heather Bell, and the steep embankment of Ocean Grove overlooking the lagoon is on the other side. I am also aware of Pacific Landing, yet another development coming forward, which will also have to use Heather Bell for access, egress, and yet more construction traffic. They hope to have shovels in the ground in April 2015. Don't forget that even though the Oceanside Cottages development seems to have disappeared for now, that is the third potential development site for our tiny community. I am counting on you to instruct this planning department and the developers to do it right for the second time round, with enough infrastructure to support a community that will grow from 80 single-family homes to well over 850 residences or more. You might not be here as councillors or even residents of Colwood once these developments are built out, but the consequences of your decisions tonight will reshape this area. You must consider the impact of all three of these future developments in your decision tonight. With regard to the staff report, page 6, amenity contributions for units in excess of 344, but not exceeding 795. This is ridiculous. 344 is almost the total of all the units built on the property, except for the 3 towers fronting Heather Bell. Amenity contributions will not be seen until well into the future, presuming this developer is still a viable entity. Page 4, timing of works and services. B, completion of works and services on Heather Bell, required before occupancy of any proposed residential buildings fronting Heather Bell. The city must ensure that this developer completes Heather Bell upgrades, especially sidewalks, before he starts bringing in construction personnel and equipment. This is a significant safety concern for all of us. My major concern is for the corner of Heather Bell and Lagoon Road. It is imperative that we have a right and left turn lane from Heather Bell onto Lagoon. We are turning from a very steep road onto another steep section of Lagoon, regardless of which way you turn. Lagoon already has poor sight lines and visibility because of the tight S-turn, and the traffic will increase by at least 10 times more now than what it is. The developer promised a lighted bus shelter, a viewing platform, which I see has been made for later on, a flashing light, a crosswalk, and finally access to his own site, all from the corner of Heather Bell and Lagoon. Great, but all of this will make for more dangerous, congested corner, totally unsuitable for wide turning construction vehicles unless the road is generously widened to provide for all of these. It needs to be planned for now. The widening can only occur on the Ocean Grove property adjacent to where the 12-story and commercial areas are to be located, and the Royal Roads fence will not move. The city needs to incorporate adequate parking at the top for access to the Royal Roads trails, as well as the new trail system shown into the Ocean Grove site. In conclusion, if this developer is already claiming the amenities make the project uneconomical, perhaps he is not the right developer, or it is not the right time to complete this project. Thank you.
Stuart Parkinson, 3230 Selleck Way. Bruce and Sherry addressed my point probably far better than I will, but since I'm here, I thought I'd bore you with my speech anyway. Firstly, congratulations. I thought the concept of asking for a little more information after the Planning and Zoning Committee or whatever you call it here, and before going to public hearing was a worthwhile step. I noticed the first thing you asked for was information on the riparian area and who would be responsible for it. And I noticed when I turn forward a couple of pages, I find that You state the riparian area, the one sentence, upon completion of the project, the ongoing maintenance of the riparian area will be the responsibility of the strata owners. This is consistent with the previous Quattro proposal. Also on page 7, there's a mention that all roads will be strata, again, apparently consistent with the previous proposal. And I bet if I was a councillor here, I would be telling my staff that their job was to keep the costs of the city down and to get the revenue up, which is exactly, of course, what that does, as has been explained, when you tax us and expect us to pay for public, essentially, trails, riparian, and roadways through our things. So I'm not faulting the staff. It's probably good practice. But I would request sincerely that you as council, the ones who determine what's the quality of life has to be in our community, who sets the standard for fairness and equity within the community, that you actually stop and have a real discussion about this. Because if you think that's the right way to go in the fairness, I'd like to hear it from you, not buried in a staff report. So that's my request here tonight, that you as council discuss that principle and whether that's the principle you want to hang your hats on or not. So I'm going to leave the rest of it to others, but I wanted to make those points. Thank you.
Good evening. I am Jerry Herter, and I live at 3234 Holgate Lane in Baltic 1. Just briefly, I'd like to fully support previous speakers on the project Ocean Grove. I can only think that, sort of comically, have some members of staff been turned down for residency in Ocean Grove? Because the lack of common sense is rather astounding. And I would plead with you to please bring back some common sense in the development of this project. We've been waiting a long time for something to happen, and it looks as though it could be on track, but with respect to the infrastructure costs being thrown at the residents, it just doesn't make any sense, as I've mentioned. So thank you very much.
Harold Windsor, 3223 Selleck Way. Tonight, you've heard it all. It's been said many ways. But no matter what happens here, if the cost does fall to us, and it does impede us being able to sell our units down the road, or them to be able to sell units, period, you might end up with 88 units trying to pay for all these new roads. We won't have the funds. So that's where it boils down to. If we don't get the 600 units in there, who pays for the roads to begin with? The roads have to go in sometime. And if we can't sell units after that, there's only going to be a handful down there. Who's going to pay for it? So that's all I wanted to bring to bear. It's basically they've covered everything. Thank you.
Good evening, council, staff. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'm only going to cover a couple items. One's single-family housing. At the Planning and Land Use Committee meeting, there was several people that spoke against single-family housing, and in particular small lots. And the report that was produced from that meeting never mentioned anything about housing, and it hasn't made this revised report either. So just want to bring it to your attention. There was a lot of comments along those lines. The other item I just want to comment on, I'm looking at page 75 of 127 in your report. I'll give you a second to try and find that. It's the proposed changes to the off-site improvements. I just want to speak to the off-site improvements part of this, not the amenity charge portion of it. In this report, they have the estimates that started with the Quattro development at about 3.5 million as a subtotal, and then the new owners have put in a figure of 2.25. And then the planner has worked on his recommendations, and I believe that's what you're looking at. I see some anomalies here. I just don't understand the need to build Seafield for 1.3 million as recommended by the planner. As far as I'm concerned, I think the new owner has the right number. There is 0 right beside it. Well, it's quite a difference, 1.3 million and 0. On the planner's recommendations, he's taken money away from Heather Bell, Lagoon, Goldfinch, and the off-site trail. I actually didn't take much off Heather Bell, sorry. But he's taken monies from, or she has, from the roads that are going to receive all the traffic, and they're putting all those funds over to a road that's a dead-end road that serves 10 properties. Several of them, 3 or 4, are large properties, which council could easily extract these road additions out of if they ever want to develop. And in the meantime, who needs it? The people are very well served on that road right now. So that 1.3 million would be way better be spent on a repair budget for the bridge or something that the community uses, like Machosen Road, Lagoon Road, or across the front. It's just, to me, I see that as a waste of money there. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you.
One other question, if I could, on the development and the variance that has been proposed. I see in here the variance has been suggested to have been reduced from the 20 meters that are already in place to 10 meters, which obviously allows for the greater density. But where I would propose is that the 20 meters stay in place at least for against anything that's abutting the buildings that are already in place, so that the people who have bought under those rules and everything else expect a little bit of more space before the next building is built beside them. We know there's going to be buildings built, but I think the 20-meter that variance should stay in place. That's where I'd come from in that. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Leo McCloskey, and I'm at 201-3223 Selleck Way. Most of the points that have been raised here tonight I agree with, and I won't repeat them because they've already been mentioned. However, the main consensus here is with respect to fairness, with regards to the roads, with regards to infrastructure, how it's going to be paid, and looking upon that as a double burden on us owners. The other note that I wanted to make mention with regards to the trail system that is going to be proposed and built. Again, it's a question, this is access to the general public, and again, it's a question about fairness in terms of the maintenance, care, and the cost, and whether that's going to be borne solely by us owners, strata owners at Ocean Grove. And again, it's a question of fairness. Thank you for your time.
Evening. Joanne Anslow, 301-3223 Selleck Way. I'd just like to thank everybody for the statements that they've made. My husband and I support everything that's been brought to your attention tonight. We would just like to stress that we are not a gated community, that we will be open to the community of Colwood, that they will be accessing the park-like area, the trails, and we believe that at this present time and other areas in Colwood, such as Colwood Creek Estates, where the trail there that I've walked many times, that is, I believe, I'm not sure of my facts, but I believe that is supported by the city of Colwood, not by the residents in that area, just as an example. And we were really hopeful when we moved into Ocean Grove, and we had a vision, and we really think it's something that Colwood can do to make it a jewel of the community if it's done properly. And we hope you keep that in mind when you're making your decision.
I I think everybody has pretty much had a crack at speaking, but I'm going to give you one last chance, folks. So is there anyone with this or another topic to present? Seeing none, I want to thank you for your comments, and we will be moving on with our agenda. As said, no pay it forward this evening, so I will move on to Mayor's message. Councillor Trace, you have returned. Thank you. I do have a few announcements here for benefit of council. One is a reminder that we have a date down at our place tomorrow morning from 11 till, if you can spare a couple of hours between 11 and 2, to help serve the Christmas meal to those citizens who do without a lot of the time of the year. So we welcome anyone's participation. I will be going down for 11 in the morning. If anybody needs a ride, happy to do that car share thing so that we're avoiding parking issues downtown. So be in touch. And if you'd be so kind to let me know if you are coming so that I can be looking for you when we're down there. That's number one. Number two is also an opportunity with Salvation Army to shake the kettle at Thrifty Foods. Again, I'm looking for your availability to do that. We have between now and December 24th to do that. We've done it in the past, and it's been a fairly rockin' good time down there. So Santa hats and music, and we'll shake the kettle out. Again, please be in touch with me before the end of this week so that I can get that organized with Sapili. Transit has, due to the election and the timing of things, we missed our last meeting, and we're just getting things underway. But there is a notation here from Transit reminding us all that there is a changes to Colwood effective December 29th. I have it in the hands of our communications officer to upload that info to our website, so you should be able to see it there, and of course on Transit itself. And the transit service changes are based on the system's long-term transit future plan and recent Victoria Regional Service Review and the approved 2014-15 annual service plan. So there have been a number of changes to different routes involving Esquimalt Shoreline School on 25 Maplewood Colwood Exchange. We have a new name at our Colwood transit station now. It's not West Shore. It is Colwood. We have the extension of the routes 52 to Bear Mountain and increased services on 59 and 60 through Triangle Mountain. So there have some changes for you that are on transit. Be good to see. Check that out. And I think that's the other one is City of Colwood offices will be closed from December 24th through till Friday, January 2nd inclusively, and will be reopening on Monday, January the 5th. The closure does not affect emergency services. Colwood Fire Department emergency services will continue to operate throughout the holiday season, but our public building here administratively will be closed on those dates. If there's any extreme weather or road safety issues, Colwood Public Works, there will be a number posted, but through the fire department they can be reached as well. So we have that info out, and that will also be up on our website for the folks that want to keep track of that. So council is beginning a 4-year term, and with the significant appointments made to our standing committees, I have tried to balance the equally important select committees. I want to thank all of you who have applied and put your names forward to serve on the various Colwood committees. We've had many applicants, and once again, it was a very difficult process. It is of absolute importance that we share what we do with the members of the public and to engage wherever possible. The good and bad of that is, of course, good, we have such interest, bad, we have insufficient places. So we're always looking for creative ways that we can engage with the public. Please, if you were not selected at this time, understand that everyone who has indicated an interest will remain on our contact list for the whole of 2015 in the event that we need to make some changes. And I have, if I'll go through these, I'm going to need, please, a mover and a seconder. So I'll read out what it is if council could follow the lead on that. So we'll run through for citizen appointments from Finance and Admin, Kim Jordison and Dorothy York.
So moved.
Any questions, comments? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Parks, Rec and Culture, Citizen Joe Richardson, Citizen Al Hood.
Second.
Questions, comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Planning and Land Use, Citizen Sean Eden and Citizen Ron Coutre.
So moved. Second.
Questions, comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Protective Services, Citizen Dean Jensen and Greg Green.
Second.
Questions, comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Transportation Public Infrastructure, Citizen Gibbs Small and Citizen Rick McKay.
Move the recommendation.
Questions, comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Economic Development. We only have one at this time because we're still working to find a second. In regard to that, it's a specialized committee that's just coming in to its place, so we still have a bit of work to do on that. So we have Citizen Doug Kobayashi.
So moved.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. That's the ones for our standing committees and then select committees. All right, where did my colored paper go? Oh, there we are. I'm going to run through these. Some may have been covered off on the inaugural, but I still want to make it noted here. BC Transit Commission, that is appointed by the province, and that position at this time, without change, in that we have not heard, remains with myself. Capital Regional District Director, myself, with alternate Councillor Cynthia Day. That was also discussed and passed at our inaugural. Capital Regional District Regional Water Commission Director Gordy Logan and alternate Cynthia Day. I don't think we covered off on those ones at that time.
No, I don't. I choose not to move it.
The Water Commission appointments are on the agenda later this evening because you have to do a public process.
Okay. We didn't catch that one, Mars. So we'll scrap those and we'll deal with those ones coming up. Colwood Cycling Advisory Member, Councillor Lilha Chong, and alternate Councillor Jason Nault.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Crest Capital Regional Emergency System Telecommunication, Councillor Gordy Logan.
So moved.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Emergency Planning Committee Member, Councillor Rob Martin.
So moved.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Esquimalt Lagoon Stewardship Initiative Member, Councillor Jason Nault. Alternate, Councillor Lilha Chong.
So moved.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Friends of Coal Island Member, Councillor Jason Nault. And alternate, Councillor Gordy Logan.
So moved.
Yeah, you think it's tough on me here. Greater Victoria Labour Relations, I think we covered that with Councillor Terry Trace, but the alternate is Councillor Martin.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Greater Victoria Public Library Liaison we covered with Councillor Martin in the last one. Harbour Advisory Committee, Councillor Jason Nault.
So moved.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Heritage Advisory Commission Member, Councillor Terry Trace. Alternate, Councillor Lilha Chong.
Move recommendation.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Intermunicipal Advisory Committee on Disability Issues, IACTI. Councillor Cynthia Day with Councillor Lilha Chong.
Move the recommendation. Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Wanda Fuca Retail Water Distribution Commission, are we dealing with that one later, too? Yes. Okay. Both of those off. Pay It Forward, Mayor Carol Hamilton, Pioneer Cemetery Board member and alternate, Councillor Terry Trace member, and Councillor Lil Ha Chong alternate.
So moved.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. School District Liaison Committee, myself, member, and Councillor Gordy Logan, alternate.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. St. John the Baptist Church Cemetery Board of Trustees, in following along with Heritage and our Pioneer Cemetery Board, Councillor Terry Trace.
So moved.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Treaty Advisory Committee, this is an ongoing one, and it's quite extensive. I'm asking for Councillor Cynthia Day and myself to remain in that one at this time.
So moved.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Victoria Family Court and Youth Justice Committee, recommending Councillor Day continue as she is chair on that committee, but supported with the alternate Councillor Lil Ha Chong.
So moved.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. West Shore Chamber of Commerce representative, Councillor Terry Trace, and alternate Councillor Rob Martin.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. And finally, West Shore Parks and Rec, I believe we covered off in our inaugural because they had a date and timeline involved with that. That is, of course, Councillors Rob Martin and Lil Ha Chong. And that concludes for 2015 the appointments here. We have citizen appointments that are also been identified earlier within our in-camera, and they will be released at the end of our meeting, correct? So that's where we're at with those ones. So that concludes Mayor's message. Looking now in Section 5, adoption of the minutes, we have 3 sets to adopt from November 25th, the public hearing of November 25th, and the inaugural meeting of Council December 1st. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Report of public hearing November 25th to receive.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Correspondence requiring council direction. Okay, folks, we have this new iPad feature. So if you remember where that was, I think we can view the PowerPoint in front of you. Otherwise, who's taking care of the other one? Transport Canada's proposed changes to vessel pollution and dangerous chemical regulation, and call for PRAC members. Who'll be dealing with it? Yeah, you got to go into your iBooks. Yeah. I'm hoping it's coming up on the big screen up here, but it should also come over on this one eventually. While we're waiting for that to get up, I understand to our corporate officer, there is a date on there. Where are we in regards to that date? They want to have this by December the 1st. Well, that's, I mean, yeah, they sometimes think that we just call meetings when they send us stuff.
Well, this is to do with UBCM is looking for people who want to apply for a seat on Transport Canada's Pacific Regional Advisory Council on oil spill preparedness and response. And the existing membership ends at the end of December 2014, which is probably why it's got the December 1st deadline. Only we didn't receive this information until very late in November, and we were a little distracted with the election. So Transport Canada is looking to fill positions and to establish an eligibility list for future vacancies. The initials are PRAC, so the Pacific Regional Advisory Council. They're a key part of Canada's preparedness and response system since 1995. They're an advisory group comprised of up to 7 members, appointed by the Minister of Transport to represent the communities and interests potentially affected by ship source marine oil spills. They're looking to see if we have anybody who may be interested in serving on this committee. And PRAC includes, but it's not limited to, representatives from municipalities, fishing and aquaculture interests, environmental, Aboriginal, port authorities, business and business associations, shipping interests, oil handling facilities, and representatives from academia, marine law, and related disciplines. So there's a great deal of information that they provided with their letter of submission. It's up to the city to determine if it's something that they want to have a representative serve on or submit an application to serve on.
No, I think you have to go through to Apple TV and then.
Yeah, he went to Apple.
Mm-hmm.
He's not on Apple. He's trying to change the inputs.
Oh, no. You have to go to Apple TV, I think.
Madam Mayor, just wonder if I could ask a question based on the information that was included in our package. I'm just wondering if we have received any further correspondence from them relating to the deadline, because they were looking for expressions of interest by December 1st, and according to the program that we were just trying to get up on the big screen there, the date in this one is December the 5th. So we are definitely well beyond their date. As background, I can only offer that there were a number of resolutions passed by the Association of Vancouver Island and Coastal Communities and also at UBCM with regard to the need for additional vigilance in regard to potential oil spills and oil spill response on the coast, which certainly would and could impact Colwood. So I'm just wondering if we'd heard anything else from them saying, hey, we know you were in the middle of an election and you can still apply, or...
Well, I know they have 2 things in the works. The one is a Pacific Regional Advisory Council to see if we want anybody to serve, of which the December 1st deadline. And the other one is proposed changes to the vessel pollution and dangerous chemical regulations that had the December 5th deadline. So when we first got all the information, we did express concern to AVICC that we are getting this information with such short amount of time for us to even digest it, never mind make any kind of decisions. But we've had no feedback at all about extending deadlines or any type of change, at least that I'm aware of.
I think maybe what might be appropriate here is if there's anybody, that has a desire to take a look at this further, because of the deadline constraints and as spoken, we're well past and beyond that. We could, see otherwise perhaps the motion to receive is more appropriate at this time. And let me know if there's further information required by any individual.
Just one further question, and Jason might know the answer because he's been probably to more LC meetings than I've been to in the last while, but I just wonder if this had been on LC's radar at all.
LC is specifically concerned with the lagoon watershed area, so this is quite a bit beyond their scope of study. So maybe individual members have heard of it, but it has not been on the LC agenda.
Motion to receive.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. There is a second part to that, though, and I think it's a bit different. Islands Trust sent out a letter on December 1st to Minister of Transport in around pleasure craft sewage dumping. This is basically an information letter, I believe. I'm just looking at the tail end. Yeah, it's directed to the Minister of Transportation and for information basically around the control and regulatory aspect of ships dumping into the ocean. So, again, probably more of a receipt for information.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on then, 6.2, letter Senior Manager, Legislative Information Services in regards to Capital Regional District request for a meeting with Mayor and Council.
This letter is an invitation from the Capital Regional District for Mayor and Council to meet with them early in the new year, preferably January or February. They would like to have 90 minutes of your time, so they're hoping this can be a standalone meeting, whether it's well, they've suggested a meeting with council or breakfast meeting, whatever we can make work, it would be called to order properly. I have put a question to them, which is to find out if their intent is for this to be an open meeting or an in-camera meeting, and if it's in camera, we need to know the reasons why it's in camera, so they're looking into that for us. The board is developing a new strategic plan, and they want to engage with its member municipalities to obtain their input into what they feel the strategic priorities for 2015 to 2018 should be. As well, they would like to inform councils about CRD operations and engaged on the CRD strategic plan, the regional sustainable strategy, the pedestrian and cycling master plan, and the wayfinding guidelines. Although I can't quite tell you what wayfinding guidelines are. So I have suggested that if it's possible to have an early January meeting, we may be able to make the first week in January available since none of our standing committees are meeting because of the Christmas closure. But I haven't heard any response back yet, and it's been about 8 or 9 days since I suggested that.
And just to add to that, council, be aware that I gave Marcy 3 or 4 requests from different agencies such as Ombudsman, BC Assessment. There was a number of them with the request as well to Crest was another opportunity to present. And so I'm wondering if maybe this one should be included and look to staff to having an opportunity to determine what sort of schedule or timeline that we might be able to come up with in there, because it's fairly busy over the next little while. What's your thoughts? Councillor Date.
Thank you. Just January is already starting to look a little bit horrific on the calendar, and 90 minutes is a long time. I know there's a lot of services that are provided through the CRD, which may definitely be of interest to certainly new members of council, but I think that there's a lot of ground that those of us who've been here time before or recently are quite aware of. So I'm just not sure if that's the best use of our time this January in terms of having the presentation. I did attend the orientation at the CRD last week, and there's a pretty good spreadsheet which provides a pretty good overview of what the services are and what the costs of those services are, and that doesn't take 90 minutes to go over.
And maybe a suggestion to staff further to that is CRD often does forum of councils sort of processes. I'm wondering if maybe this might be something, if they're going and offering this to all of the municipalities, maybe it might be consideration to pull us all together for a morning meeting or what have you, and do it in a much bigger group. timely, more efficient all the way around. Motion to receive, motion to direct staff to try and fill our calendars with that sort of stuff. What do you want? Councillor Martin?
My understanding is our Director of Administration is already speaking with them, so probably just need to receive it for now. So I'll move to receive.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. New business, Planning and Land Use Committee report, Director of Planning, RZ 14003, Ocean Grove, outstanding items from Planning and Land Use Committee and Council revised staff recommendations. Director Borhill.
Thank you, Your Worship.
I'm going to have to excuse myself.
Yep, one.
Thank you. As Council is aware, the development originally named Aquatro, located on a large parcel of land near Esquimalt Lagoon, has been purchased by Seacliff Properties Limited and renamed Ocean Grove. Along with the name change, the new developer has proposed revisions to the development plan requiring rezoning and amendments to the official community plan. The developer's application was presented to the Planning and Land Use Committee on October 21st, 2014, who then put forward a recommendation to proceed with the application, but with direction to staff to clarify several key points. The staff report before you was drafted in response to the request from the committee to clarify what off-site improvements, including road upgrades and on-site parking requirements, would be proposed by the developer of the Ocean Grove development. Council also subsequently directed staff to provide additional information on the proposed development regarding internal riparian area, illustration of subdivision of lots, and emergency vehicle access for firefighting. This information is provided in the staff report. As for parking, the applicant has now agreed to meet current bylaws standards for off-site parking. And now I'll touch on the off-site improvements to roadways that was asked of us to provide a clarification. Staff have always understood that the application would include works and services on Seafield Road. However, it became apparent that this was not the intention of the developer. Therefore, staff and the developer renegotiated the package of off-site upgrades and amenity contributions to include upgrades to Seafield Road. However, this meant proposed upgrades in other areas and per unit amenity contributions were reduced to partially offset the added costs of upgrades to Seafield Road. Staff estimate that the revised package represents a net increase of approximately $413,000 above what the applicant had expected to contribute when the misunderstanding was discovered at the October 21st, 2014 Planning and Land Use Committee. Based on what the applicant has stated is economically feasible, staff feel that these contributions adequately balance the infrastructure needs of the community and the financial needs of the developer. That being said, it is of course Council's decision as to whether these revised off-site upgrades and amenity contributions are acceptable. Please refer to the amended recommendation and appendix showing track changes to see how the renegotiated off-site upgrades and amenities would affect the proposed zoning and development agreement. Next, I'd like to give an opportunity to the city engineer to describe the changes to the off-site upgrades before stating options and the staff recommendation.
So I'll just briefly describe the differences between what the original development agreement for the Aquatro development contained in the way of off-site upgrades and what is contained in the current proposals. So on Seafield, the differences are that the 2007 agreement had underground hydro wiring, and the today's proposal does not. The 2007 agreement had what was described as non-standard shielded low elevation lighting, and the today's agreement shows regular lighting. On Heatherbell, the only difference is in the type of lighting, shielded, non-standard low elevation lighting as compared to regular lighting in today's proposal. On Lagoon Road, the difference is in the 2007 proposal, there was a sidewalk plus a bike lane on the development side of the road, and in today's proposal there isn't. There's only a sidewalk on the other side of the road, and again the difference in the lighting on Goldfinch Road. The 2007 agreement included underground wiring and the special lighting, and today's proposal does not include underground wiring or the special lighting. The original agreement included an island at Lagoon and Millburn. That's already done. It also included a sidewalk on Lagoon Road above Heatherbell. That's already done. And it included traffic calming islands on Ocean Boulevard, and today's proposal does not include those. There is one on-site difference that should be mentioned, which is that there, in the 2007 proposal, there was an improvement to the existing trail through the park, and in the current proposal it's just to retain the existing trail.
Thank you, Michael. Tonight, Council has the option to forward these applications by endorsing an amended recommendation from the Planning and Land Use Committee and instructing staff to draft rezoning and official community plan amendment bylaws prior to their consideration for first reading by Council at a later date. Alternatively, Council may defer the applications for additional information or refer the application back to committee for their consideration. An option I'd like to highlight that is not expressly stated in the staff report could involve direction to staff to revisit some of the proposed off-site contributions and or their timing with the developer, and also direct staff to prepare the draft bylaws. In conclusion, I'd like to state staff's recommendation as follows: that the official community plan and rezoning amendment bylaws be prepared such that if and when the provisions are made in a registrable development agreement for the conditions stated on pages 6 through 9 of the staff report, consideration will be given to the adoption of the amended bylaws. Thank you.
Open it up to council. Councillor Nault.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I directed some questions to staff on Friday that I was hoping to have answers for. The original register of title under the Land Title Act had a number of conditions to it. One of these was that the developer should have deposited as security with the city the amount of $7,000 per unit. At 88 completed units, this is $616,000. I was wondering where that money had gone.
Through the chair. Staff is going to have to do some additional investigation beyond what we're able to do today to look into that. There was likely a fund that was created, and some of which was given back because of the fact that there were some upgrades to the roads there as part and parcel with the completed construction. We don't have a up-to-date sum for you tonight, but certainly we'll be able to get that to council if that's their wish.
The second one is similar. There was supposed to be a security deposit of $250,000 for completion of the riparian area. I assume the same answer for that. given that these could make a rather large difference on the amenity monies that we require, I would like to move that we table this to the next council meeting or until such time as those questions are adequately answered. They make rather a large difference to the amenity contribution required from the developer. So that would be my motion.
Seconder?
I'll second the motion.
Tabling motion, no discussion. Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? 2 opposed and 1, 2, 3. It passes. Tabled. Somebody call Councillor Trace back into the room. No, there's, yeah, tie, yeah.
Tie vote fails. Tie vote fails.
Point of order. The vote was called and only 4 hands went up. Anybody's hand that does not go up
Is in favor.
is in favor.
Everybody back? So that will be, questions need to be answered by staff for the next council meeting, and this will be back on the agenda. Finance and Admin, 7.2.1 report, CAO on tablet distribution.
The purpose of this report is to receive Council's approval of the draft tablet distribution and use policy intended to establish clear and consistent practices for Council and staff. During the 2013 and 2014 budget process, staff were directed to purchase tablets to use for meeting agenda materials that are provided to Council and members of the public. This program was to expand to include city staff. The proposed policy in front of you tonight includes the following areas: policy purpose, receipt of tablets, software on tablets, acceptable use, return of tablets, and policy compliance. I'd like to bring to Council's attention and the public's attention that there was an error found on the actual policy itself. Section 2, the care of the tablet, second paragraph, second sentence, should read 4-year opposed to 3-year. There is a contradiction on the term of council. The draft policy, which has been attached, was based on best practice review from other organizations and in consultation with city staff who play key roles in the process. Drafts were circulated to Council, Directors, Legal Counsel regarding Freedom of Information requests and the Finance Administration Committee for feedback prior to this report being submitted. My recommendation this evening is that Council approve the tablet distribution and use policy, tab 001, as presented on December 15, 2014 by the Chief Administrative Officer under the report dated November 21st, 2014.
Open to questions on things at first. Any comments, questions coming from Council? I have in the report where it speaks around the paper agendas and that sort of thing. I had made a note here. We will be getting the overhead projectors working for members of our public, so it may not. Wouldn't we be able to actually put the agenda items and all that stuff up on there as well, so that even for the, quite possibly for the public, we won't even need paper if it's functionable up here?
If I may, through you, Madam Mayor, we have had a member of the public in the past, Wolfgang Gulick, for example, who mentioned he's not on computers, he'll never be on computers, and appreciates the fact that he can come in and pick up a paper agenda.
Mhm.
We can significantly reduce it from
Yeah.
umpteen to 20-some-odd packages, but I think we still need to have a few of them available, as well as a couple, the one that we put in our archives.
You fixed the 3-year term. Just under the policy section where you have unacceptable use of city-issued tablets included, not limited to.
Section number?
Well, it's
Unacceptable?
just page 2 of 4, and then going into 3 of 4. I can see most of that. I'm just not sure where any use either on or off work time that would be deemed a contravention of the city's code of ethics, harassment in a bully workplace. I couldn't see any correlation to those policies around. Like, you don't want me taking your
Post funny
picture?
pictures of me.
I was just going to say, you don't want me taking your picture?
Well, only, you can do funny things with pictures, right? You
Yeah,
can
but I didn't
put
see any
them or
relative
make them-
to the policy to this. Like there might be. I mean,
The intent was to abide by our city's already approved code of conduct and the harassment and bullying workplace policy. It's not to be used for those sort of purposes that would be in contravention of either of those policies.
so it just means I can't beat Gordy with my iPad.
Yeah.
And be caught.
We'll take. All right.
Madam Mayor, I had a point
Yep.
just on, I'm just trying, under section 6, the return of the tablets. It is expected that each tablet will have a normal life of approximately 48 months, and that when a city council member receives a replacement device after 48 months, the council member will have the option to keep the original device for their own personal use or return the device to the city of Colwood so that it can be reset and prepared for donation to a local nonprofit organization or internally within the city organization. I feel strongly that the city can use the iPads within the organization, and I don't think it should be an option that a councillor keeps the iPad for their own use thereafter. So I would like to hear what other people think, but I would feel bad about keeping the city's iPad. I think that we may eventually reach a point where we have more, or they may be so antiquated that they're not deemed worthy anymore. But at the moment, there's still plenty of usefulness for those iPads within our organization. So I think we'd be better off approving a policy that is applicable right now and amending it at a future date if it is no longer applicable.
And I don't disagree, but I will say that there are other policies. My tablet is provided to me through BC Transit, and they have that within, is that when your term is up, they will, and you're not, like, it's being replaced, they'll strip it out and you can continue to use it, or they'll do it. So it may have been something that's been picked up in reviewing other policies around the region. And 4 years, let's keep in mind, my cell phone expired with all support services and whatever within 3. So we're not at the mercy of the software providers and the other upgrade portions. So it becomes almost a recreational use item after that period of time, I would tend to think. Councillor Logan.
Move the recommendation, Your Worship.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. 7.2.2, handheld device disbursement and reimbursement policy.
The purpose of this report is to present the draft cell phone or handheld device distribution and use and distribution policy intended to establish the clear and consistent practices of the organization. Sorry for, I tried to distinguish between cell phones and smartphones. Essentially, they're both very much capable of doing a lot of what we expect a phone to do. However, a smartphone has the increased capacity for extra data accumulation and extra uses online. The overview, in continuing efforts to find ways to reduce costs, staff time, and limit liability for the city, administration is proposing the draft policy to allow the standardization for the device disbursement and the ability to issue a stipend to the designated employees. Within the policy, you'll see that I have assigned various different personnel with those smartphones as where it would be required. At most, the discretion would be at the directors and the city manager. It is recognized that handheld devices are becoming more valuable to both the professional and personal user. They are also invaluable in the event of an emergency with the ability to connect to individuals using a variety of methods, such as phone, email, and text. Since increasing technology accessibility and advancements, more and more users are choosing to purchase smartphones for their own personal use. Currently, the city does not have a policy in place covering the need to regulate the requirement, disbursement, and reimbursement of handheld devices. The proposed policy may allow the city to reduce contract administration time on a monthly basis, reduce or eliminate unnecessary expenses, and would provide consistency across the organization for the issuance of a handheld device and/or stipend. The policy addresses the following items: eligibility, reimbursement, leave of employment, employee responsibilities, conduct of use, safety, compliance with policy, and an acknowledgement form. The recommendation before you this evening is that Council approve the handheld device disbursement and reimbursement policy, HAN 001, as presented on December 15, 2014, within the Chief Administrative Officer's report dated December 5, 2014.
Councillor Martin?
Thank you. I think it's a policy that definitely probably needs to be part of the city, but I would like it to just sort of get vetted through FAC first, if that's all right with our CAO, and I would like to make that recommendation to move it to FAC.
Yep.
Discussion on the motion, moving it to FAC.
Finance and Administrative Committee.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, we changed the name.
Yeah. Pardon me, I should have let you know. Was there anything else, any questions or whatever around? Councillor Logan?
Thank you, Worship. I just had one quick question through you to James. It says number 3, leave of employment. The policy addresses the following items. Is there something in here that would cover long-term leave? So someone's off on LTD, WCB,
Absolutely.
that sort of thing?
That was the intent of this. Employees who are off on long-term leave, sick, workers' compensation, et cetera, are not entitled to handheld devices reimbursement during the time they are off. Employees who have been supplied a city-issued handheld device and who are off on long-term leave, workers' compensation, et cetera, shall return their device at their earliest convenience.
Perfect. Thank you.
So we have a motion for this to go through to FAC. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Councillor Trace, that will be on your radar screen. Here we are. Director of Admin, appointments to CRD, Regional Water Commission, and Juan de Fuca Water Distributions.
So this report is on the agenda. It's just a follow-up to our November 10, 2014 council meeting, where the public was advised that council intends to appoint representatives to the Capital Regional District Regional Water Supply Commission, as well as the Juan de Fuca Water Distribution Commission at tonight's meeting. There are public notice requirements to make sure that the public is aware that they do have an opportunity to make representation to council on the appointments before council makes the appointments themselves. The city did, through the November 10th meeting, an agenda package, through the city's website, through notices on the city's public notice boards, as well as by giving a spot on council's agenda tonight, met all the requirements of the CRD to make sure the public was aware of that opportunity. So we need council now to consider, ask the public if they have any comment, their member and alternate appointments to those two water commissions for a period of 4 years each.
And I had that as Councillor Gordy Logan, Director, and Councillor Day as alternate.
As well as the one to Fuca. There's
Yeah.
for both committees?
Yeah.
Commissions? Thank you.
Council needs to make that motion, and
We need to do public first or motion first?
The public needs to be given an opportunity to speak.
so Emmett or Russ?
What happened to the audience?
Gotcha, didn't I? Anything to comment? Will allow you the opportunity? You're good?
I'll make
If
the
I may-
motion.
Excuse me.
Please,
I was just going to say,
Gordy.
if I may, for the record, we should point out that there were no written or any other submissions to the
Okay.
city on these appointments.
Certainly. No written or public admissions. So then, Councillor Martin, you're going ahead with the recommendation?
Yes, I'll do the recommendation with Gordy and Cynthia.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Bylaws, number 1558, final reading, Colwood Main Sewer Local Area Service Bylaw Establishment and Loan Authorization Bylaw number 598, 2001, amendment number 24.
Move final.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Bylaw number 1559, final reading, Colwood West Sewer Local Area Service Establishment and Loan Authorization number 625, 2001.
Move final.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Motion to move in camera. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.